Been teasing this for over a month. Let's get going, guys. Hey there guys, Portal Master 9351 here, and in today's video, I am going to be presenting my video on Activision's master plan for Skylanders, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and beyond. I have been teasing this video for over a month now, and I have made many discussion videos that have led up to the release of this video. Now, this is a little later than I had anticipated originally, as the press conference for Activision, their earnings call, does come tomorrow, and I have to make this video now because it won't be relevant after the press call. But if you have time, do go back and watch as many of my other videos as you can in the playlist Activision's Master Plan, because that will help provide a little bit of context for this video. But if you don't have time, this video should be enough. I should go into enough detail that you can understand this video without having watched those videos, but you will understand it a lot better if you have seen those. But let's get started talking about Activision's master plan for some of their various franchises. The first franchise that I wanted to talk about for Activision is, of course, none other than Skylanders. Skylanders, as you can see, is obviously the main point of this channel, and it's the one that I definitely have the most expertise when it comes to. So that is why I did want to start with Skylanders. So Skylanders, what I have said many times about Skylanders is that Activision is never going to get rid of anything that is making them a considerable amount of money. And even though Skylanders may have underperformed the past several years, there is absolutely no way Activision will get rid of it. It still makes them a lot of money. And the only reason that its sales have been declining is because Activision has not worked out a lot of long-standing problems with the franchise. So, we know for a fact that Activision took 2017 off for Skylanders games, but they never said that Skylanders was cancelled, they never said it wasn't coming back, and Eric Hirshberg said straight up, I don't think Toys to Life is dead, but we may have to change things up a little bit. So, with that in mind, Activision will never get rid of Skylanders. Not now. Maybe if they try to bring it back and it fails, then maybe they can get rid of it. Kind of like with Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero, they tried to bring back and then it failed. And they gave up on Guitar Hero. They just straight up gave up on it. But as for now, Skylanders has still not been brought back and succeeded or failed yet. So, Activision is in no position to actually cancel the franchise. You know, that's the thing. It's insane. They're not going to cancel Skylanders yet. If it comes back and it fails, they'll cancel it, but for now, there's no chance of it actually being canceled. Now, what are they going to do with Skylanders, though? They're going to find a way to make it profitable again. They took a one-year break in 2017. They had year 2, okay, but in reality, they took a one-year break. And this is basically them taking a step back and saying, how do we make Skylanders become more profitable once again? As I just said, they're not going to cancel something until they at least try to bring it back. And that's what they've done. They have taken some time to try to figure out how to make it profitable again. Will this be the year of Skylanders returning? Perhaps it will be. It may not be, but a lot of signs, such as Toys for Bob hiring a lot of jobs that have similar tools to the game development tools used to make Skylanders, definitely strongly points to them actually making a Skylanders 7 for a 2018 release. And with this in mind, I personally believe that the Skylanders mobile game was cancelled in favor of Skylanders 7. I think originally when they said that they were going to be developing a Skylanders mobile game, they were not sure if they wanted to bring back the Toys to Life aspect just yet, or maybe hadn't decided if they wanted to bring the toys over to mobile. Now, with no news being given out for the mobile game in over a year, or almost a year at this point, there seems to be strong indications, strong rumors that the game was in fact cancelled. And I personally believe that the signs do point towards a Skylanders 7 being made. So I personally believe that the mobile game was cancelled in favor of making a more profitable Skylanders 7. I also think that Skylanders has a much stronger chance of actually being revitalized with this new release. The main reason for that is the fact that Eric Hirshberg, the former CEO of Activision, has now left the company. And with this in mind, a lot of the high-up decisions were made by Hirshberg or people that were closely associated with Hirshberg. Now with such a change in leadership, greater changes within the gaming franchise as a whole will be possible, and Skylanders is no exception to this. And so, So I expect that a lot of the flaws that have been long-standing within the Skylanders franchise will be fixed and rectified in a Skylanders 7 that will most likely release this year. And on top of this, I personally believe that for the future of the Skylanders franchise as a whole, it will actually feature a totally different release cycle. I've spoken on this in my video about the Skylanders Champions 3-packs and the video that I did about what happened with Skylanders Year 2, but basically they experimented with these new types of release patterns, a 2-year release cycle for Skylanders. They released a couple of expansion packs following the release of the game this year in 2017, and I expect that when we do get a Skylanders 7, probably this year, 2019 will not in fact bring a Skylanders 8, but will instead bring a Year 2 for whatever Skylanders 7 happens to be. And I think that this will be made known from the get-go, that not all Skylanders figures will release in this year and next year, but will in fact come over a course of 2 years. And I think that as a whole, Activision is moving towards this release cycle for a lot of their games. And actually, now that I've mentioned that, I'm going to transition into the next thing, which is Spyro. I've made multiple videos on the Spyro franchise at this point, and I personally believe that a Spyro remake is on the horizon somewhere. It's coming eventually. And the reason for this is just the basic fact that Spyro remasters would make Activision money. In the end, you have to understand that the thing that Activision is going to do, the most important concept to understanding Activision's master plan is understanding that their main goal is to make money. They are a business. That is always their main goal. Any company always wants to make money. And if they can make money off a Spyro remake, they are going to do a Spyro remake. When is this remake coming? I honestly have no idea. And the fact that the Crash remaster has now been stated that it's going to be ported to other consoles this year and also actually have a new game next year kind of throws a wrench in the whole theory. Originally, I thought a Spyro remaster would be announced this year and then released next year. But now that may not be the case, given that there is a Crash Bandicoot game that will most likely come in 2019. And I have a video on that if you're a little curious as to getting some more details on that. But basically, a Spyro remake happening, but honestly, when is it happening? I don't know. Honestly, with the news that we've received, I could see it released this year alongside of a Skylanders 7. I mean, it would make sense. Crash Bandicoot was put in Skylanders to refamiliarize people with Crash Bandicoot. Could Spyro be brought back to the forefront of Skylanders and then released in his own game later this year? I honestly don't know, but it's been proven that Activision is willing to put characters in both their own games as well as Skylanders, or potentially other games as well. So I think that a Spyro game could release this year. It would just not be, it would be unexpected. It would be unexpected for sure, but it could definitely happen, and it's mostly because of the Crash Bandicoot stuff. Now on to Crash Bandicoot. So, according to Eurogamer, however you want to say it, I don't know why I said Eurogamer, it sounds really fancy when I say it that way. Anyways, according to that news website that I just said the name of, the Crash remaster is getting ported after all. There was a release in a publisher's magazine that stated that Crash Bandicoot would be getting a port to both PC and Nintendo Switch this year, and would actually have a brand new game coming next year. And Eurogamer does seem to confirm this, which most likely means that, it's happening. We're getting a Crash Bandicoot game in 2019 as well as ports this year. That's obviously unexpected. I don't think anyone expected Crash Bandicoot to move forward that quickly. I think we all knew that eventually Crash Bandicoot would get his own game, but I don't think we had any idea that it would be coming as soon as next year. And I also don't think a lot of people predicted the game going to the Switch. I really don't think anyone predicted that at all. It was also stated that Activision had a 5-year plan for the Crash Bandicoot franchise, and if the ports are coming this year and the new game is coming in 2019, then that almost already confirms a brand new game coming in 2021. Now, the reason for this is, well, it's a 2-year release cycle, 2017, 2019, 2021. Just makes sense, and this further shows the new release cycle that Activision is pursuing, a 2-year release cycle. They don't want to release games back to back to back to back. They want to release them with a gap year in between. Now, this is a little bit different though, because 2017 would be the first year, 2018 would bring ports, 2019 a new game, 2021 another new game, but what about 2020? Well, there have been a lot of rumors that Crash Racing or Crash Bash could get a remaster at some point. Now, Crash Racing, the reason that I don't think that this game will be remastered is because now that we know that that it's going to get ported to these other consoles, you've kind of got to think. Crash Racing is going to be directly competing with Mario Kart. And let's be honest, as cool as Crash Racing would be, it's no competitor for a titan like Mario Kart. And I imagine that by 2020, which is when a theoretical remaster of it could be released, there's probably already going to be a new Mario Kart game on the Switch that's probably going to be better than the one that's already there, and honestly, Crash can't compete with that. However, Crash Bash could. Now, I understand that at this point Mario Party will probably be on the Switch, but the thing is, Crash Bash is not Mario Party. It's something totally different, something totally new and unique, and I did play the original at one point, so I am at least slightly familiar with the game. So I do think that a remaster of this could actually be coming in 2020, but I do not think that a Crash Racing will be coming. Although I will say that it is possible that Activision may not want to do, as I said, those yearly releases. I could totally see that being the thing. And is it possible that either the game coming in 2019, well, we know the game coming in 2019 is a new game, excuse me, but is it possible the game in 2021 is actually a remaster of either Crash Bash or Crash Racing, but most likely Crash Bash? Honestly, who knows? But I will say that I do expect all future Crash games to be multi-platform, and the only one that will ever retain that PS4 exclusivity, at least for a little bit of time, will be the Insane Trilogy. You don't move to multi-platform and then go back to platform exclusivity. You don't do that. Now, I will jump back to Spyro here for a minute. If Spyro is released, I could totally see him being PS4 exclusive, but I could also see him being released on multiple platforms as well. It all honestly depends on where the platforms are when the game comes out. If it comes out this year, I totally see it being PS4 exclusive. However, several years down the road, I expect the Nintendo Switch to have a much larger market share than it does right now. The Switch has already taken off a lot. Like, it's one of the biggest consoles right now. And I think that as time goes on, that lead that they are maintaining over their other consoles is only going to get bigger. And I think that companies are going to be more willing to put games on the Switch from the get-go. So I could see Spyro games being multi-platform if they are not released this year. But honestly, that's a shot in the dark, and who knows. Now let's talk about Destiny. You may be thinking, if you're a fan of Skylanders, Crash, Spyro, whatever, why does Destiny play a role in this? Well, it does. And the main reason that it plays a role in this is because of its release cycle. I keep talking about this release cycle that Activision is pursuing, and Destiny is a great example of this release cycle. Destiny 1 came out in 2014, and it had expansions that released for it over the next several years, culminating in a sequel, Destiny 2, being released in 2017. Now, I talked very briefly about this in one of my other videos, but basically, Destiny 2 has a lot of problems, and every DLC is making it worse, not better. So, Activision hasn't fixed the problem with Destiny 2, and in reality, the franchise is just kind of going downhill, and I expect that trend will continue for a while. Now, Activision has proven over multiple franchises over several years that they are not committed to fixing things before they are a problem. Skylanders has gone downhill for years, and they're only just now trying to fix it. You know, Call of Duty went downhill for several years until finally Infinite Warfare convinced them that there was something wrong with the formula they were using and they needed to fix the problem. The same thing is present with Guitar Hero. Destiny is probably going to be the same way. Destiny is going to continue to go downhill for the rest of its release cycle, but during the final several DLCs, Activision will finally acknowledge the problem and say, okay, we'll fix it in Destiny 3, and Destiny 3 will likely be released in 2020. It seems as if Destiny is on a 3-year release cycle. But I will say that if Activision moves all their other games over to a 2-year release cycle, then it could be that Destiny 3 could come out in 2019, but I think at this point, Destiny is probably firmly entrenched in a 3-year release cycle because they can sell just about as much money as a new game in DLC for Destiny, because a lot of people buy the Destiny DLC. If you buy the game, you're not really getting all that Destiny has to offer, and a lot of people are more than willing to go out and buy the DLC. So I don't think there's a terribly huge reason for Activision to go out and try to release additional Destiny games at a faster rate when they can just release more pricey DLC. I mean, whether you think it's worth it or not, I won't debate, but I don't expect another Destiny game until 2020. But excuse me, this does still continue to reinforce Activision's brand new, or it's not brand new for Destiny, but it is brand new for some of their other franchises, staggered release schedule, not year after year after year. The final major franchise that I'm going to talk about for Activision is, of course, none other than Call of Duty. Call of Duty is no doubt the franchise here I have the least experience for. I have never played Call of Duty, and I'm not into those kinds of games. I like Splatoon, but I'm really not that big into first-person shooters. They're just not what appeals to me. Although I will say Destiny's a little different, but I'm not here to debate that. Anyways, though, I do know enough about Call of Duty in terms of statistics with its sales and how Activision has treated the franchise as a whole to be able to make some educated guesses based on what I do know. There are a lot of rumors that Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which is what's assumed to be the next Call of Duty game, has been pushed back until 2019, and this is following some backlash that they just released game after game after game after game, which in reality was probably just as much contributing to the decline in sales as was making games that just didn't appeal to audiences anymore. People are getting tired of going out and buying game after game after game that doesn't actually update the formula, and when it does change the formula, it's not for the better. So Activision is most likely pushing back Call of Duty until 2019, and this is massive because Call of Duty has almost always been an annual releasing game. It may have always been. I honestly don't know that much about early history Call of Duty, but my understanding is that it's almost always released every single year, and to not have a single Call of Duty release in 2018 would be a massive thing. With this in mind, Call of Duty games will probably always be releasing again with a 2-year release cycle, not unlike Skylanders, which has been killed or at least declined for several reasons, but one of which has got to be the fact that they release a new one every single year. I think Activision is finally starting to realize that it's not a good business strategy to do annual releases unless you're EA and can get away with it with your sports titles because new sports ballers end up being in games and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the thing. Call of Duty switching to a 2-year release cycle would be the biggest thing out of all of this that points to Activision totally switching up their business strategy. If Skylanders moves to a 2-year release cycle, if Spyro is always on a 2-year release cycle from the get-go, if Crash Bandicoot gets on a 2-year release cycle, if Destiny is on a 3-year release cycle, and Call of Duty is on a 2-year release cycle, then everything is staggered and there's no annual releases whatsoever. And that means that Activision's business strategy as a whole will have shifted entirely, and this is really massive. So if Call of Duty does in fact actually go more for quality instead of quantity with releasing new games, then that pretty much seals the deal that this is what Activision is doing with their franchises. I've hammered home this whole thing about staggered releases and what this means for every single franchise out there that Activision has. One thing I have not talked about that much though is the effects of Eric Hirshberg's resignation. Eric Hirshberg, the CEO of Activision, I did a video on that. It's funny, it's almost like this is not a Skylanders channel anymore, it's literally an Activision channel. But basically, Eric Hirshberg, CEO of Activision, has resigned and he's going to leave in March. This will be his final earnings call. And they're going to get a dude to replace him. And they may even announce this at the earnings call, who is replacing Hirshberg, and that could actually have some big implications in and of itself. But with Hirshberg, one of the people in charge of making high-level decisions at Activision, leaving, then this could mean big things for various franchises. Who knows? Maybe Hirshberg is the one all along that's been pushing for these yearly releases, and with his departure, the staggered release cycle can really take hold. Maybe he's the reason that Skylanders continues to release so many toys every year, and as he leaves, maybe they'll release fewer toys, but better games. Who knows? Maybe Destiny's entire, way of being is gonna change. Who knows? Eric Hirshberg's resignation is one of the biggest unknowns in this video because we can't tell how it's going to affect things. Because A, we don't really know what Hirshberg was in charge of. We know he was in charge of Activision, but we don't really know how many decisions he actually made. But we also don't know who is replacing him, and not knowing who's replacing him is the bigger unknown out of the two, because we could get some dude who's like super passionate about video games and really wants to see them be the best they are and is like totally anti-DLC. We could get that. Or we could get the dude that runs EA, whoever the heck that is, and he's just like, ha 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 ha, DLC, loot boxes, DLC, woo! But I think that the biggest thing that this can mean, though, is that various franchises' terms of quality, levels of quality, could change a lot. And it is possible, again, that they are emphasizing, quality over quantity, which is a good thing, in my opinion. But the quality of various franchises could change with this leadership change. And I do think that with certain games getting staggered releases, we could see a reallocation of development resources, because previously, Call of Duty games had about 3 developers. They had 3 developers, and it was basically one year, one the next, one the next, one the next, one the next, and it would alternate between the 3 of them. But if it's going to a 2-year release cycle, then that means that a development studio could have a grand total of 6 years in between their 2 games. And if that is the case, that is a lot of downtime, way more than is necessary for the development of a Call of Duty game. So we could see one of those development studios dropped from developing Call of Duty, or we could see them move to something else, or maybe they'll work together on each release. I honestly don't know how it's going to work, but I do think that the reallocation of development resources is big, and is actually even more evident with the whole Vicarious Visions thing, since it looks like Toys for Bob is more than likely the one that's developing Skylanders 7. If they are, then that means Vicarious Visions is freed up to do something totally different. Perhaps the new Crash game, or the Spyro remaster. Honestly, who knows? But with this in mind, there's going to be a big reallocation of development resources, I think, as we move to this new release cycle. Let's now take a look at the timeline for at least what I think. I think that Activision's master plan, let me grab this is my script. It's a rough script, it's just got some outlines on it. But basically, this is what I'm thinking. 2018, we see Skylanders 7 completely overhauled and brand new. And with Skylanders 7, we see a brand new Spyro remake, and it's basically cross-promoed between the 2 of them. Previously, I thought a Spyro remaster was coming in 2019, but with the news that Crash Bandicoot is in fact coming in 2019, it seems less likely for them to release a Spyro remaster alongside of that, and more likely that they would release it alongside a Skylanders game. For 2019, I see the brand new Crash Bandicoot game coming out, whatever that ends up being titled. We also see Call of Duty Black Ops 4, because what else would it be? I mean, obviously it'd probably be Call of Duty Black Ops 4. That's what everything seems to point towards. Then we would also see a Skylanders 7 Year 2 release, because again, Skylanders is going to move to a 2-year release cycle more than likely, and they would actually have a proper second-year wave of figures coming out all through 2019. As we move into 2020, I see Destiny 3 releasing, and the reason for this is because, based on past evidence, we can seem to see Destiny has a 3-year release cycle. It'll probably just be called, I don't know, Destiny 3 or something like that. Honestly, I don't know what it's going to be called, but it'll probably just be like Destiny 3, and then maybe the next game after that will actually have a fancy title instead of just a name. Honestly, that's not terribly important. Now, if Skylanders 7 happens to be successful over both years, I could totally see a Skylanders 8 coming out. Now, one thing that this will actually be very different depending on is whether or not Year 2 of Skylanders 7 sells. Previously, figure releases after the game's been out for a long time have been kind of iffy, so it's possible that they would go back to a 1-year release cycle, but I honestly don't see them doing this, as I do think that the adventure packs for Skylanders Imaginators sold quite well, considering, that they had been released like a year after the game was released. But anyways, yeah, Skylanders 8 potentially in 2020, also an original Spyro game, assuming that a remaster is released in 2018, and assuming that that remaster is successful. I think that they'll continue on with the Spyro franchise, because again, it's money to be made, and if Activision can make money, they're going to try to make money. For 2021, Crash Bandicoot 2, or the original Crash Bandicoot 2, not the original Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back, but a brand new, original Crash Bandicoot 2 coming out in 2021, as well as a new Call of Duty game from some other Activision developer. Honestly, who knows, but probably no Call of Duty game in 2020, but there would probably be one in 2021. So what is Activision's master plan? Overhaul and re-strategize their release pattern. That is their master plan. That's what every single one of these videos has been building to. And it is evidence for not only that new Crash game that I'm talking about, because if they're restructuring Call of Duty, Skylanders, and all this other stuff, then that supports a Crash Bandicoot game coming every 2 years, and would mean the rumors are much more likely to be true. And it also means that Skylanders 7 coming this year is also increasingly likely. So if they basically do this, then Activision as a whole will be entirely changing their strategies, and the way they release games will never be the same. And this is gonna be big if Activision decides to do this. We know from last year that in 2017 Activision was downsizing. Could this be the year where they not only, restructure the way their company runs based on having a new CEO and stuff, but could this be the year that they actually decide to change their release patterns? This would make a lot of sense. Activision could do a total overhaul of the way they run their company. We don't really know why Eric Hirshberg left. We know he left on his own accord, but we don't really know why. Is it possible that he said, okay, I'm going to step down so that a new person can come in and take the reins of Activision? Could it have been a decision like that? He wants to do what's best for the company. I honestly don't know. But for Activision to restructure after a CEO leaving, and rethink the way they release their games, that makes total sense. And with all of this considered, that is, in my opinion, Activision's master plan for the Skylanders, Spyro, Crash franchises and beyond for the next several years. That's through 2021. That's this year and the next 3 years. So basically a 4-year plan. So yeah, that's my theory. Anyways, guys, that is a long video. This has been a long video. My vocal cords are screaming. Not only because I'm literally screaming, but also they hurt a lot. I've gone through like 3 water bottles in the process of recording this video because it's a lot of yelling, y'all. But anyways, guys, that is all I have for you guys today. Tell me what you think about this theory down in the comments. I'm going to be so excited to see tomorrow if this theory ends up being true. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. I've said that 3 times now, but remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.